All right, so listen to this. You guys sent in a ton of gaming news this week, and wow, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it's really amazing how much happens in just a week.
It is, we've got console rumors, we've got big game announcements, and oh yeah, a bit of controversy too.
Yeah.
So, are you ready to jump in?
Always ready.
Okay, so first up, this one really caught my eye. 82% of PS5s sold are the disc versions.
Interesting.
Yeah. In the age of digital downloads, that's pretty wild, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, maybe it's a nostalgia thing, right?
Maybe.
But I think it might be something more. You buy a physical game, you own it. No worries about servers shutting down or, losing access to your account.
I get that it's about having control, yeah, actually owning the game.
Yeah.
But get this, the rumor is the PS5 Pro that's going to be digital only.
Oh, wow.
So would you go all digital for a console?
I don't know.
That's a tough question.
It is. It makes you think about the future of physical media, right?
Sure.
On the other hand, though, you've got Xbox, and it seems like they're all about giving players options, especially with this insane lineup they have for 2024.
Oh, yeah, this could be a huge year for them for sure. I mean, we're talking some serious heavy hitters coming out. First up, Call of Duty, Black Ops 6.
Ooh, yes.
It's got the futuristic warfare, the deep customization, and it's going to be on Game Pass day one.
That Game Pass move, that's smart. It could really bring in a lot of new players for the franchise.
Totally. And speaking of expanding horizons, how about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024?
Oh, man, the detail is incredible. They've got, realistic turbulence and even missions like firefighting.
It's wild, right? And then there's Stalker 2, that post-apocalyptic Ukrainian setting, choices that matter. Intense AI. It's going to be intense.
It really is. And, you have to think about the developers and what they've been through with the war in Ukraine. It's pretty amazing that this game is coming out at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, are you ready for this?
Yes.
We are getting a new Indiana Jones game. Yes. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny coming to Xbox, and the studio behind it is none other than the Wolfenstein folks.
Oh, wow. That's a great fit, actually. It seems like Xbox is really trying to diversify their games, tapping into these big names, bringing in studios with a lot of experience. It's a smart strategy.
Totally. And then, of course, there's Dragon Age.
Red Wolf.
Red Wolf.
Oh, yeah, the big RP.
Stunning visuals, world-altering decisions. I mean, talk about high stakes.
There's a lot of pressure on the devs for that one.
For sure. So, with all these exclusives dropping, do you think 2024 could be the year Xbox finally takes the crown from PlayStation?
It's possible Microsoft's not just releasing games, they're really building an entire ecosystem with Game Pass and their cloud gaming.
Yeah.
It's going to be a close race for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, but get ready for this because Rayman is making a comeback. A brand new game is in development.
Wow, really?
But there's a twist. Michel Ancel, Rayman's creator, he's back as a consultant.
Oh, wow. That's interesting, but also, a little complicated. Well, remember Ansel left Ubisoft under a cloud of controversy. There were accusations of misconduct. So this raises some, tricky questions.
Yeah, it brings up the whole separating the art from the artist debate.
Right.
Right? Some people will be thrilled he's back. Others might be really uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It is. So how do you navigate something like that?
Well, there's no easy answer. It really comes down to your own values and how much weight you give to the accusations versus what the creator contributed. It's a conversation that needs to happen, though.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears here and talk about a game that's been in development for what feels like forever, Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Oh, yeah. I remember hearing about that years ago.
Almost 20 years, actually.
Wow.
There have been delays, rumors, people thought it was dead.
So what's going on with it?
Well, hold on to your hats because Ubisoft says it's still in production.
Really?
And they even brought in a new creative director.
Well, that's either a sign that things are finally moving or it's just another delay waiting to happen. I mean, a leadership change at this stage could mean they're reworking a lot.
Right. It makes you wonder if there's still hope for Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But you know what? I always love the world of indie games.
Oh, me too.
That's where you find the really unique ideas, the innovation. And speaking of that, guess what the creators of What Remains of Edith Finch are working on something new.
Oh, wow. That's exciting. What Remains of Edith Finch was such a powerful game.
It really was. And get this, their inspiration for the new game, it's coming from Ico Spirited Away and even David Attenborough nature documentaries.
That's an interesting mix.
It is, but when you think about the themes in Edith Finch, family loss, the fragility of life, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So what are you thinking? What kind of game do you think this will be?
Well, I'm picturing something visually beautiful, emotionally resonant, and maybe a little spooky.
I love it. And it just shows you what indie game development is all about. You know,
Yeah.
fresh ideas, passionate creators. It's so exciting to see what they come up with.
Totally. And that's not all. We have another indie studio with a really interesting vision for a new RPG.
Oh, tell me more.
So the studio behind Tales of Kenzera, ZAU, they're planning an Afro-Gothic RPG inspired by the classic Planescape, Torment.
Planescape. Torment. Now, that's a game that sticks with you.
It really does. It's a cult classic, known for its deep story, its philosophical themes. It's not really about combat. It's more about dialogue choices and grappling with some big existential questions.
Okay, you've got my attention. And this new game, it's set in the same universe as Tales of Kenzera, ZAU.
Yes, the director Abubakar Salim, he's talked about wanting to explore themes of death and fear, which were inspired by him becoming a father.
Wow, so it's a very personal story.
It seems like it, yeah.
So we've got the cultural depth, the philosophical themes, and this personal touch. This sounds like a game that could really push the boundaries of what RPGs can be.
It's definitely ambitious, and that's what's so great about the indie scene right now. You have these developers taking risks, exploring new ideas, and creating these experiences that you just wouldn't see in the mainstream.
Absolutely. And, we've covered a lot of ground just in this first part of our deep dive, but there's so much more to talk about.
Oh yeah, we've only scratched the surface. Next up, we're going to be looking at some of the bigger trends shaping the gaming landscape right now, from the rise of digital distribution to the future of cloud gaming.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. Stay tuned. So, when all these new games coming out, it really makes you think about the bigger picture, like how we access games, how we experience them. That's changing so fast.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when you actually had to go to a store to buy a game.
Yeah.
Now it's like all digital downloads, online stores.
Exactly. Platforms like Steam, the Epic Games Store, they've made it so easy to find games, buy games from anywhere in the world. And then there's cloud gaming.
Oh, yeah.
GeForce, now Xbox Cloud Gaming, you can play these high-end games on practically any device.
It's crazy how accessible gaming is now. You don't need to spend a ton of money on the newest hardware to play some of the biggest titles.
Yeah, that's a huge change, and it's really opened things up for indie developers, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Smaller studios, they can reach a global audience without needing those big publishing deals.
It's so great to see them getting their chance. Indie devs are often the ones pushing the boundaries with the creative ideas, even if they don't have a ton of resources.
Yeah, totally. But it's not just how we access games. Technology is changing the games themselves, too. Like, we're seeing a lot more games adopting the games as a service model.
Boss.
Yeah, so instead of a game having a clear ending, it just keeps going. They add new content, new updates all the time.
Oh, right. So like Fortnite, Apex Legends, Destiny 2.
Exactly. They've managed to stay popular for years because they keep their communities engaged, they keep things fresh.
That's a smart strategy. It keeps people coming back for more, but I don't know, does the game ever really feel finished if it's always being updated?
That's a good question, and I think it's something developers are still figuring out. On the one hand, GAS lets them continuously improve a game, right? Respond to feedback, fix bugs. But it's also tough. How do you maintain a vision for a game that's always changing?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And of course, we can't forget about microtransactions.
Double-edged sword.
They can be a good way to support development, especially for free-to-play games, but they can also feel really predatory if they're not done right.
For sure. It's all about finding that balance. Microtransactions that actually add to the experience without making players feel like they're being taken advantage of.
Exactly. So let's talk more about cloud gaming. You mentioned it earlier. Everyone's saying it's the future, but is it really ready? I mean, what about internet speeds and lag?
Those are definitely still factors. Cloud gaming has come a long way, but
Yeah.
you need a good internet connection, and not everyone has that. And then there's the question of ownership with cloud gaming. You're basically renting the game.
Yeah, I get that it can feel a little weird,
Mm-hmm.
but I can see the appeal too. Imagine being able to play any game anywhere without having to download it or worry about your hardware.
That's the dream, right? And I think we're getting closer as internet speeds get faster and the technology improves collectible. Cloud gaming is going to become more and more mainstream. It might not replace traditional gaming entirely, but it'll be a real option.
More options are always good, but cloud gaming isn't the only thing shaking things up.
Right.
What about virtual reality? VR's been around for a while, but it feels like it's finally starting to take off.
Yeah, and augmented reality is starting to come into the picture too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, think about the possibilities of immersive VR worlds that blur the lines between reality and fantasy, or AR games that turn your everyday life into an interactive playground.
Made me chills just thinking about it, so the future of gaming sounds bright.
Definitely full of possibilities, but there are definitely some challenges too.
For sure. But speaking of challenges, let's bring it back to the present and talk about something that's been a big topic, lately, this whole separating the art from the artist thing.
Oh, yeah, it's a tough conversation.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
How do you deal with loving a game when the person who made it has done something wrong?
It's a tough one. Social media has given us this window into the lives of creators, so it's harder to ignore their actions even if their work is amazing.
Yeah, totally. So what do we do? Do we boycott the game? Do we try to separate the art from the artist? I know, it feels like there's no good answer.
I agree. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. For some people, it's a hard line. They just won't support anyone accused of bad behavior for others. They feel like the art can be judged separately, even if they don't agree with what the creator did.
It's about personal values, right?
Yeah.
Making choices that feel right for you.
Exactly. But it's definitely something to think about. These conversations are important. They make us think more carefully about what we're supporting.
Absolutely. And, stepping back for a second, it's amazing to think about everything we talked about today. We've gone from these huge blockbuster releases to these tiny indie games, from hardware trends to the future of gaming itself.
It's mind-blowing how much is changing.
It is, and the crazy thing is, it feels like we're just getting started. Who knows what incredible games we'll be playing in a few years?
That's what's so great about gaming. It's always evolving. But here's something to think about. With all these amazing games out there, what kind of game do you feel is still missing? What would you like to see developers create?
Wow, that's a great question. It really gets you thinking. The creativity in gaming is limitless, and I can't wait to see what comes next. And until our next deep dive into whatever your amazing listeners send our way, keep on gaming.